I'm 17, female, and I've been dating my boyfriend, Mike, who is 16, male, for about 3 months now. We're both juniors in high school, and everything has been going really well between us. We met through mutual friends about 8 months ago and hit it off quickly. He's funny, kind, and down to earth. We have an amazing relationship. However, our financial situations are different. My family is pretty well off, not rich, with no mansions or yachts, but we live in a nice house, take 1 to 2 vacations per year, and I don't really have to stress about money. I only work, so I'm not sitting at home doing nothing. That being said, I've always been taught not to flaunt it nor bring it up. We drive normal cars and live a fairly average lifestyle, even if we have more savings than others. I never talk about money with people. Mike's family doesn't have much. He's mentioned how they struggle sometimes to pay bills and how they have to budget for everything because of this. He's made a few comments about rich kids being spoiled or out of touch, which is why I didn't bring up my family situation. I didn't want him to see me differently or feel awkward about the differences between us. I don't care what his financial situation is. I love him anyway. He's seen my house and knows my parents run a business, but he doesn't know about all my parents' assets, which make a lot more money and is what keeps us comfortable. So, he doesn't know how much we really have. Well, recently, Mike and I had dinner with my family, along with cousins. We all sat down and talked about traveling in general, and one of my cousins mentioned the vacation home my parents had. She was talking about the cabin we had in the mountains. Our family loves camping and hiking, so we vacation there sometimes. Mike went quiet, but I could tell something was up. Later, when we were alone, he asked why I never told him that my family had so much money. I tried to explain that it wasn't something I thought was important, and I didn't want him to feel weird about it. Besides, he knew I was more well off than him. He just didn't know the full extent. That's when he got a bit upset and said something that caught me off guard. He mentioned how I could have helped him out with some of the things he's been struggling with financially, like gas money, or when his car needed repairs a few months ago. He said that he was not asking for handouts, but he felt like I was hiding something from him when I could have made things easier. I told him I didn't want to make things awkward between us by offering money, and I didn't think it was my place to get involved with his finances. But now he says it feels like I wasn't being honest, and that maybe I don't trust him enough to share that part of my life. Over the next few weeks, Mike started getting a little invasive. He looked up my house on Zillow and was shocked at the value. Mike showed me a screen, and he was upset that he didn't know how rich we were. He also started looking at my family members' social media sites to see what they do and how rich they are, cousins, uncles, aunts. I got really mad at him and told him I didn't appreciate him digging through my family life. My finances are not his business. I asked him to stop being weird. Mike then responded that he was trying to fully understand what my lifestyle is like, but I think he's going completely off the rails. I didn't mean for it to turn into such a big deal. I was just trying to avoid making him feel uncomfortable or like he was less than me. I also believe my family finances are irrelevant, and now I'm wondering if I should have been more open from the start. Am I the soul the bloody cheeky so and so 3 months have you been together, and he's expecting you to pay for things for him? He's expecting to know your financial details. He's looking up your family members' jobs and getting angry about how much your house is worth. Yeah, that's red flags all around for me. Get out of there. And it doesn't even sound like it's your money. It's your parents' money. He's getting all but hurt about it. Very, very strange behavior. But huge shout out says you're teenagers. They've been dating for 3 months, and you should help him fix his car or give him funds in general. No, and that's no. He's been invaded by the green-eyed envy monster, and he no longer sees you as his girlfriend but as a potential ATM. Your family's finances are irrelevant to him. They're none of his business, period. On the plus side, it didn't take long to see what kind of person he is. No, you weren't supposed to swish like in Real Housewives and tell your chauffeur to wait outside the classroom. How ridiculous. You're just a girl who liked a boy who turned out to be a gold digger. And they claim it's always a woman, please. The Marxist says not the victim. His response is completely inappropriate, and you're not the victim. The reason you didn't want to tell him is exactly what happened when he found out. Anyways, you tried your best, but I think he's harboring some resentment and can't separate your family situation from you. I'd say this relationship has run its course, But it's not your fault that he let this poison your relationship. Recent data says not the opposite. I'm sorry to say this, but he is the exact person you're trying to avoid. He talks like he doesn't like wealthy people, but now that he realizes you are one, he's making a list of things for you to pay for. He doesn't respect your family for living below their means and saving their money. The balance in your relationship is gone. You'd expect you to pay for more dates. Okay, astronaut replies to that and said this. It's infuriating when people behave like those with better financial situations got there by money falling out of the sky, so they should share. Not denying the imbalance in society, but to immediately feel entitled to be given something just because is alarming. Lots of people work very hard and plan well to afford what they have, and lots are not doing as well because of some poor decisions. So then Opie came in with their update and says, so when I made the original post, it was a few days after our argument. I wasn't going to post an update, but lots of people wanted one, and stuff actually happened. So here we go. Yesterday, I called Mike and asked if we could meet up for coffee to discuss what to do next. He agreed. As we talked, I explained my family's finances are private, and it was not my business to tell other people. The money isn't even technically mine. It's my parents'. This is why I didn't tell him. Mike didn't take this very well. He asked me how I could just watch him struggle for months and not do anything. They've already been together for 3 months, right? Anyway, how I pretended to feel bad for him when I didn't even understand how bad his life was. I responded that I did feel bad and that I have been supportive. I tried to get him a job at my parents' grocery store, but he didn't like it, so he refused. I would always give rides to him since gas was expensive. I offered gas money whenever he did drive me, but he always refused since he wanted to pay for me. Even just emotionally, I was trying to be as supportive as I could when he was stressed. I acknowledge that I don't understand how hard his life is because I've never lived it, but I've done my best to be supportive. Emotionally, Mike Justice Smith missed all of that and said that wasn't the point. He said that for him, the money wasn't the issue. It was trust. He felt that I had kept something significant from him, and he's wondering what else I was hiding. He said that he wasn't asking for handouts, but knowing I had the means to help him out, but chose not to made him feel unsupported. Mike explained he felt like there was a huge gap between us now, and he will never be equal to me. He told me there was no reason for me to hide such a big secret from him at this point. I got angry. I corrected him, saying he was asking for handouts. I mentioned our previous conversation of how he said that I could have helped with his car and gas. I explained the money he so desperately wanted wasn't even mine. It's my family's. I told him that I wasn't entitled to the money my parents spent over 2 decades earning, and I couldn't just bail him out of whatever problems he has with money. I went back to how I did support him, just not financially. I'm ashamed to admit that I did kind of lose my cool, hair, and almost started yelling. After that, I calmed down and explained that I would never shame him for his struggles. My family never has either. They love him. We don't care about how much money someone has. We talked for some more, but I eventually told him I wanted to break up. It wasn't because he was upset I hid my wealth, but it was for digging into my family members' lives. I told him that I was extremely invasive, and I couldn't forgive that. I couldn't feel comfortable around someone who would do that. It was a breach of trust for me. Mike also told me he wanted to break up since he didn't feel comfortable in a relationship where the financial gap is so big. And that our lives were just too different, he added. We ended the conversation and parted ways. The good thing is, he goes to a different school, so I won't be seeing him around. Part of me feels sad since I do love him. It was my first relationship, and I wanted it to work. But I also feel relieved because I wasn't sure if I could take whatever Mike would do if I stayed. I really didn't like him snooping in my family's lives. I'm wondering if I made a mistake ending the relationship now, and it really, really sucks. Was I too harsh? I'm not even sure. I don't think I'll be dating anytime soon. I'm not too eager now, and just to be clear, I don't hate Mike. I do think he probably just never saw money like ours, and that he was just shocked in general. I get that he is 16, and I'm sure he will grow out of this mentality. I hope he does and has a better life. But I can't continue with him. I don't like that he tried to dig into my family members' lives. I also want to clarify things. A lot of people were asking about the car. Mike's car is old and used, and it was gifted to him by his uncle since he doesn't use it anymore. It's about 8 years old. Mike didn't buy the car, and he doesn't know the true value of my parents' money. That's why he was digging around. It seems like people thought that I was perceived as middle class or poor. I never was. Mike and others knew I lived a life that was well off. I just never talked about money, that's all. Mike does not know about my parents' other assets. He started thinking we had more money than he thought because he found out about the vacation home. That's why he tried digging through my family's information. He still doesn't even know close to anything since my parents keep their assets secret. Even I don't know them. People don't start digging into it until you give them a reason to. Okay, so apparently, 8 years is not old for a car. Sorry, I don't know how cars work, but it's been heavily used. Anyway, I was going to say I think my car's 8 years old, but the absolute entitlement of this person to expect to want to know your financial information, your family's financial information. Yeah, this was just never going to work out after that. But now, I'm going to turn this one over to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Our next story says, am I the asshole for asking a customer's kid not to touch something? I literally made an account just to ask this. I'm a 24-year-old male who works at a popular fast food restaurant. I've been working here since this location opened, and I love working here. I like my coworkers, my boss is great, and I've never had any problems with customers until today. We have a self-serve drink machine near the front of the store. Today, a family of 3 came in, a mom, dad, and their daughter, who looked about 4 or 5. I was the cashier for the day, and dad came to take their order while mom went to sit down at the benches we have at the door to scroll on her phone. The daughter, however, beelined to the drink station. Noticing the daughter about to stick her hands inside the spigot for the iced tea, which is separate from the soda machine, I calmly said, "Excuse me, little one, could you please not touch that?" I didn't raise my voice at all. Mom looked up from her phone immediately, got defensive, and yelled at me, "Don't yell at my child. I'm right here. You could have just gotten my attention." Now, I get it, stranger danger and all that. You don't want strangers talking to your child. However, I needed to stop her before she actually touched it. It's a health hazard. People get drinks out of that, and I don't know where your daughter's hands have been. Your entire family just came from outside. She could have had peanut butter residue or something on her hands, and the next person to drink out of it would have gone into anaphylactic shock. I didn't raise my voice. I used a gentle voice just to get her attention and not contaminate the spigot. Am I the culprit? Should I have done anything differently? I've already told my boss, and after they left, I still disinfected and sanitized the spigot. Even though I stopped her before she touched it, I felt like if I did it while she was still there, she would have had another meltdown. Absolutely not the fault in this situation at all, and I think that's pretty obvious. You know, it's the mother who should have been watching her kid at the time, not looking at her phone while her child was just touching anything she wanted. Even if it wasn't peanut butter or something that could cause an allergic reaction, it could have been anything. You know, I see kids with their fingers up their nose all the time. No one wants a booger in their iced tea. Although, I probably agree with you that you were right waiting to clean it until she left the store because I guarantee she would have had a problem with it. Remember, glass ass says not the customer. I would have told her that she needs to watch her child. I spent 5 years at Burger King and a year at Taco Bell. Customers are a huge pain in the ass, and at some point, I just got sick of their attitudes. Like people coming in asking for water glasses and then stealing soda. I once kicked the family out because their kid wasn't wearing shoes. Fine. Note replies that saying, "Yep, it takes a village," is real. Parenting is preparing your child for the real world, including how to interact appropriately in public spaces with other people. If you don't parent your kids, you don't get to be mad when the world does it for you, and chances are, they're not going to care about your feelings or your kids' feelings. Any rational parent would be apologetic and thankful in this situation. Suitable Doubt says, not the culprit. Some people choose not to watch their children and then get upset when someone else says something to their child. Unfortunately, she will not be the last parent that you have to speak to about their child. You did it right, and you will have to do it again. Hayes replies that say people really need to understand that if you fail to parent your kid, someone else will. This time, it was Opie, and it was very nice about it. Next time, it might be someone who doesn't have the patience and kindness that Opie has, or someone who has bad intentions. It's me, says, I'm sorry you had to deal with yet another parent who isn't watching their children in public. It happens all the time. I check people's kids often in my place of business because it's also a liability. It truly takes a village to raise children, and parents can't watch them 24/7. If I see something about to happen, I speak up directly to the child. It could have resulted in her pulling the whole iced tea down on her head. Her mom likely took it personally and felt that she was a bad parent in that moment. If a stranger has to check on her child because she wasn't watching, don't let that stop you from speaking up when you need to in the future. And one more comment from TCK, who says, you absolutely acted appropriately. I would have declined to serve them after that, but then I'm an old geezer without much patience. In fairness, my voice would have been above a conversational level when I said, hey, kid, keep your dirty hands off that. People's food comes from there. I would have suggested that she pull her head out of her phone and parent her child. Again, I recognize you might not have been in a position to do those things. One of the benefits of age is the courage to sometimes do the right thing, even if it's going to cause a ruckus. To OP, she came in with an update that said, thanks for your feedback. While it may seem obvious I wasn't in the wrong, I was doubting myself since it was the first time I've witnessed someone get so defensive over their child doing something wrong. Just the other day, we had a kid climb up on the table after not listening to his mom, but when I gently told him to get down, his mom thanked me. So, the other lady's response kind of surprised me. So today is my day off, and I just got off the phone with my boss. I'm not in trouble, and she reassured me about that. She called me to tell me that the mom came back and tried to complain. This is secondhand from her, so some of it might not be accurate. According to her, the lady came alone and tried to file a complaint that I screamed at her child and frightened her. I'm so glad the restaurant has cameras with audio, so my boss played back the incident for the mom to watch. The boss said she had to max out the volume because she could almost not hear me over the generic music we have playing in the store. After the video played, the boss said to the lady, so you want me to punish my worker for stopping your kid from messing up all the iced tea? Because if he hadn't, and she successfully did so, I would have made you pay for all the iced tea that she ruined. The boss is a short, middle-aged black lady from the South. She knows how to insult people and make it sound like a compliment. Don't worry, she doesn't use this power for evil. Not to mention, we had just made that tea, so the container was nearly full. The container holds about 5 gallons. The boss said the lady got wide-eyed and backpedaled hard on her stance, told her to thank me on my next shift, and left the store. Then she called me since she thought the whole thing was ridiculous, and now looking back on it, I kind of agree. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day off, maybe stop by the store and buy my boss something nice. It sounds like the boss is an absolute legend who has ops back, and I always love to see that. But on the back of these stories, what I always love to see is people with their own experiences. Princess F. Roya says, one of my nieces managed to get behind the counter in a bakery and poke a hole in an entire cake. Luckily, the cake was delicious, because of course, we pay for the whole thing and brought it home and shared it around. If you don't control your kids, you should expect to have to cover the cost. If that was my niece, I'd be like, don't poke a hole in some more cakes. Free cake? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that really. Amy, a funny man, says, at my workplace, we have to deal with parents like this all the time. A kid ruined 3 things of product and probably would have done more damage if my coworker hadn't intervened. The coworker was totally polite, basically just had the kid take responsibility and help clean up a bit. And lo and behold, the mom tried to file a complaint against them for rudely confronting their child or some other similar BS. She was so lucky we don't charge for damages to demo products like that. We just write it off plus replace since usually, people mean well, and accidents happen. I don't think she would have sung them the same tune if she had to pay what was at least $50 of product, if not more. The press says, I work in Walmart as a cashier for a while and had a kid that was aggressively spinning the bad carousel, then try to climb on top to have their siblings spin them. I told them no, get off, it was dangerous, and I didn't want them to get hurt. The mom just stared at the kid and said, you heard the lady, get the carousel off. And one more little story from Lori K., who says, I work retail, and something really similar happened to me. A little girl around 4 to 5 sat down on a display shelf right next to the product that can be easily damaged. I asked her to please not sit on that in a normal calm retail voice. Admittedly, I was tired because these people came in 2 minutes before closing, but I was not intentionally trying to be rude. Next thing I know, the whole family is leaving. Good, and the dad approaches me or macho like, "Don't you ever talk to my daughter like that again. You hear me?" The daughter seemed fine. If anything, she was confused while they were suddenly leaving. These parents like this, who immediately gets pissy when someone beats them to parenting their child before their lazy asses do.